welcome everybody to Topless Topics, a channel that seeks to destigmatize female toplessness through repeat exposure. Unless you're watching the patriarchy approved version of this video, in which case I have my heinous female nipples censored out. If you'd like to see the patriarchy unapproved version of this video, you can go to my website, toplesstopics.org/ny2024 and watch it there. So we dropped the ball and transitioned into the new year, which means it's time for my annual tradition of sharing with you all my New Year's resolutions. If you've seen my previous New Year's resolution videos, which you can see here, then you may notice that a lot of these are holdovers from previous years. Yet I'm keeping them on my list anyway because every year is a new opportunity to keep trying. I think as an old-bee content creator and worn-out elder millennial, the older I get, the more I'm able to reorder my priorities based on what actually matters to me, not so much comparing myself to others' success. After nearly 4 decades of shuffling around on this mortal coil, I've been around long enough to realize that so much of what we angst about in our younger years doesn't matter in the long term. We're always far more self-conscious than we need to be, and those who overly concern themselves with judging the lives of others need to find a new hobby anyway. Think about the positive impact you want to have on those around you, and use that as your guiding star. Anyway, back to my New Year's resolutions. To help my ADHD-rattled brain, let's organize this into a top 5 list. New Year's resolution number 1. Make my videos suck less. Okay, I'm putting that a little strongly for comedic effect. While a lot of my content is low effort, mostly because I'm always busy trying to keep my hyperactive kids from hurting themselves, I have other videos I've done that I'm okay with, maybe even proud of. Still, I keep stumbling onto videos made by others, with stellar quality that far outclasses their meager subscriber counts. Stay tuned to the end of this video for shoutouts to some of the best small creators I've found. Watching carefully crafted videos like that is inspiring. I have so many ideas for bigger, better, more interesting content. The problem I have is finishing a project before I move on to the next one. That means being more organized, like trying out this crazy new idea called scripting my videos so they're a little less rambly, and taking the time while editing to add in some visually captivating background footage, so you're not just staring at my beautiful face the whole time. Now, putting so much forethought and planning into videos is new territory for me. I've never taken a professional video editing or scriptwriting course, and it's intimidating to even try. Yet the only way you can get better at something is by practicing, and the long-term goal is to have videos I can consistently feel proud of, so it's worth it to keep trying. If you happen to know of any resources to help me figure all this out, or maybe you're a video editor, scriptwriter, social media manager, etc. available for hire, you can reach me here, toplesstopics.org/contact. Even though it can be quite dispiriting when something I spent 20+ hours creating gets far fewer views than something I shat out in 2 minutes, it's important to remember that views are not everything. And I'd much rather have 10 people actively engage in what I'm talking about, instead of 1,000 views with no interaction at all. Besides that, I truly feel that video creation is itself a form of artistic expression, even if that video isn't as brand-friendly as a Fortnite dance or get ready with me makeup tutorial. I'm not knocking content like that, by the way. I mean, it's great that it exists for the people who like it. It's just not for me. So even if videos I work hard on don't go viral, even if they never pull in the numbers I need to score an ethically approved brand deal, at least I'll be sharing my passions and interests in an openly enthusiastic manner. Maybe even inspire others to think about topics, like the insanity of censorship based on what gender you look like, in a new way that never occurred to them before. That brings me to resolution 2. As Neil Gaiman said in a 2012 keynote speech, make good art. Ever since I was old enough to hold a crayon, I've been obsessed with dabbling in all sorts of artistic pursuits. Everything from sculpting to cosplay and a whole bunch else. I've also picked up quite a collection of mismatched arts and crafting supplies over the years. Some might even call me a teensy bit of a hoarder. Hey, at least I keep it in labeled storage containers. Yet despite all that creative passion, I have very few finished projects I can look back on with pride. I'm a chronic jack-of-all-trades, master of none. Blame it on ADHD or merely a lack of discipline, but I've always had a hard time finishing one project before moving on to the next, leaving a trail of partially completed nonsense behind me. Part of this resolution is to finally finish editing some of the very many videos I've had collecting digital dust on my hard drive for literally years. Recording videos is the fun part. Editing, uploading, making social media posts about it, not so much. Yet why bother recording them in the first place if I'm never going to release them to the public? Especially regarding the interviews I've already recorded and will be recording more of throughout the year. It's not fair to the interviewee if I never release the finished project for them to enjoy, and to share with their friends and followers. By the way, if you'd like to be interviewed by me or you have a candidate you think I should approach, please let me know and I'll reach out. You can see past interviews I've done here at toplesstopics.org/interviews. So let me amend that resolution a little bit. Do more art, yes, but finish more art specifically. Whatever incentive I can find to keep myself going, I want to cross that rainbow bridge from beginning to end. If I do a quick sketch of an idea for a webcomic page or something, see more pages of my day in the life of a top-free activist webcomic at my website, toplesstopics.org/webcomic, or I start a new cosplay outfit or sculpture or whatever, I will force myself to finish it to Instagram post quality, and feel free to hold me accountable as well. Maybe I'll even finally get around to sending out those handmade Topless Topics t-shirts I keep talking about. For a long time I've used my young kids as an excuse to avoid working on crafting projects, especially those involving lots of small, easily lost supplies. But my kids are 5 and 7 years old now, still a handful when it comes to breaking and losing things, but they're also full of creativity and they want to do projects with me. That actually leads me to my next resolution. Resolution number 3, spend more quality time with my children. What do I mean by that? Well, I need to stop finding excuses not to leave the house to do interesting things with them. Things like visiting science museums, trail hiking in the rain, going to dog parks, etc. Instead of constantly struggling to get them to do something, anything, other than fighting over toys and rotting their brain watching crap on YouTube. Maybe I'll feel ambitious enough to try taking them to a library story time or kid-friendly drag show, once they demonstrate to me that they can sit still for 30 seconds. Even at home, we can make special memories together. We can play around with arts and crafts, help them make their own video game Let's Plays, have family board game nights, and so on. Just yesterday, I had the idea to find an experienced DM willing to introduce my kids to the wide world of tabletop RPGs. If you know anyone who might be interested, leave their name in the comments and I'll reach out. After all, early childhood is critical in establishing their lifelong personalities, and it's incumbent on me as their primary caretaker to do my best to ensure they grow up to be good people, to teach them self-sufficiency and to be kind to others, while in turn they remind me of the little things that I've stopped noticing in my transformation into bitter old crone. It's important to remember that kids are experiencing everything for the first time ever, and first impressions are of course everything. I want to do a better job of positively shaping those experiences, so they can have a rich and fulfilling childhood to look back on. Basically, I want to do everything I can to help them not grow up into self-centered assholes. Speaking of assholes, my next resolution is kind of a work in progress. In previous years, I've framed it as, be less angry in my videos. But these days, after realizing that men telling me my videos would be more popular if I was less hostile towards the patriarchy is essentially the digital version of telling me to smile more, I've revised my goal to this. Number 4, waste less time arguing with individuals and spend more time advocating for important issues as a whole. That means resisting the urge to reply to Instagram comments, and instead channel that frustration into researching video ideas, and writing scripts like the one you're hearing right now, and hopefully get better at not sounding so fake when I read them. That way I can edit my videos to be more attention-grabbing, more organized with visually attractive editing, though I promise not in an annoying Mr. Beastified screaming jump cut kind of way. Maybe then we can inspire more people to consider the crazy radical notion that banning female-looking nipples as sexually explicit nudity but not male-looking nipples is blatantly sexist and hypocritical. And I don't just want to raise awareness about topless equality. There are so many other societal issues that I care about. Things like white privilege, kink safety, trans and non-binary rights, wealth inequality, sex work decriminalization, and so much more. There's also fun stuff I'd like to have more opportunity to talk about, like video games and comics and movies. Maybe even, if I can retrain my social media broken brain to stay focused long enough, dark fantasy novels and nonfiction books, like those written by one of my recent interviewees, Tommy Jo Eckert, which you can read here. By the way, my friend and longtime Topless Topics community member Matthew Richardson and I recently started a podcast where we talk about progressive issues from different upbringings, black versus white, male versus female, Christian versus agnostic, etc., as well as our other main passion, video games. You can check it out by looking up Progressive Geeks Podcast on the audio listening app of your choice. Back to the resolution, as I'm sure many of you can attest, it's so easy to get sucked into mindless scrolling on social media. I'm always tired, always distracted by my kids, always intimidated by the list of errands I need to get done, always finding excuses to put off tasks that actually add value to my life instead of just wasting time. It's also demonstrably awful for your mental health to be always online, trying to stay on top of every breaking news story, every new travesty and scandal, everything, everywhere, all at once. Please note I'm not advocating for sticking your head in the sand and pretending the world isn't a shit show, now more than ever, but despite what the grifters claim, you're not actually helping any social causes by doom scrolling or yelling at racists on Twitter, and you're certainly not helping yourself either. I don't want to belabor the point too much, so let me summarize it like this. My resolution is to make note of how much time I'm wasting on arguing and angst, and force myself to put that time into being productive instead, whether that means improving my content or, like I said, spending more quality time with my kids. All this brings me to my 5th and final resolution, at least for this video. Resolution 5. Turn off my computer, put my phone down, and touch grass. You may have noticed a trend in some of my previously described resolutions, mainly that the bulk of them require me to be terminally online. While that is of course a core aspect of being an online content creator, I don't want to look back at this one life I have to live with regret over all the time I spent staring at screens. When I chose 10 years ago to move from sunny, extremely expensive San Diego to quirky, comparatively quiet Portland, Oregon, I knew what I was getting into. I've never been a fan of hot weather, and I've always found the sound of rain very soothing. That being said, it is pretty cold and wet here most of the year, and it's so easy for me to say, blah, it's miserable outside, I'm just gonna stay home and play Zelda. And thanks to climate change, even when it's not pouring rain, it's blistering hot, even in Portland. I mean, in 2021, we had a weekend of 117 degrees. That's hotter than Las Vegas. But despite all our whining, humans are more adaptable than we realize, especially when circumstances require it. We can put up with a lot and even enjoy bad weather as long as we mitigate our discomfort with proper attire. As I tell my children when they say, "Wouldn't it be better if it never rained?" We need the rain to give the trees life, and in turn the trees give us life. Hashtag save the Amazon. So always, but this year especially, I'm gonna stop letting myself be a couch potato and do all the things. Go hiking, go to live comedy and burlesque shows, maybe even find some friends to hang out with. I'm able-bodied and financially secure enough to afford a movie theater ticket now and then. I should be making use of that while I can. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening to my plans for 2024, and may we both succeed in reaching our goals. What are you guys hoping to accomplish this year? Do you have an action plan for how to achieve those tasks? Let me know. You can leave a comment on this video, or better yet, go to toplesstopics.org/contact to find a list of my as yet unbanned social media links, so we can communicate on a platform that's at least a little less likely to arbitrarily ban my content as sexually explicit nudity, always and only for the heinous unforgivable sin of female-looking nipples. You also might like to join our Discord server. We're a small but friendly bunch providing a safe space for the outcasts of society without tolerating Nazis and science deniers and other such bigots. Find the link to our server at toplesstopics.org/chat. Finally, if you want to help support Topless Topics and keep my energy up for making better quality, more frequent videos, despite constantly getting punched in the face by patriarchal censorship, please consider liking, subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and all that jazz. And please consider telling others about my content on your own social media accounts. If you didn't know, I'm constantly getting shadow banned, if not banned outright, and that means my content doesn't show up in search results or recommended lists. Therefore, my outreach is limited by how many of you I can inspire to link to my content directly in your own original posts. The only way we're going to force these profit-driven capitalists into no longer enforcing gender-based discrimination is if we can galvanize enough people into speaking out about how bullshit topless inequality is. I dream of a future where I can post my heinous female nipples exactly as male nipples are posted to mainstream platforms like YouTube and TikTok, instead of websites specifically focused on porn. As I promised earlier, here's a bunch of recommendations for other creators whose work I appreciate. Many of them are already much larger than my little channel, but I still think they're worth checking out if you're not already a fan. If there are similar creators worthy of a shout-out that I haven't mentioned here, feel free to tell us about them in the comments and I'll check them out. I'm always looking for new hour-long plus social commentaries and horror video game deep dives to add to my watch later list. Huge thank out to my Patreon donors, as given the fact that my videos are banned from monetization when they're not banned outright, I'm completely dependent on you guys to be able to afford anything like video editing software or better recording equipment. If you'd like to become a donor, you can find me at patreon.com/toplesstopics. Thanks and see you next time. Happy New Year, y'all! Photographers, models, and writers. Matthew Richardson, or as I tend to call him so I don't confuse his name with my husband's, M. Rich, is a humble yet very talented photographer and overall sweetheart who has been in the Topless Topics community for years. His online work persona is Dream Sequence Photography, where he shares his amazing portraiture, including body-positive artistic nudity. Like me, he's also a huge fan of video games, especially horror games. We actually started a podcast together recently called the Progressive Geeks Podcast. Look it up on the podcast app of your choice to hear it for yourself. Speaking of Emrich, there's another photographer whose work often includes beautiful artistic nudity that I really recommend. Clint Castor, known as Exhibit Photo PDX on Instagram. He's also incredibly humble about his work. You may notice a pervading sense of impostor syndrome in a lot of the creators I like. Funny how that works. Like me, he's constantly facing a lot of online censorship, but also like me, he keeps fighting the system and posting anyway. Absolutely stunning artistic work. I highly recommend checking him out. Thorn K. Osprey, known online as Thorns and Flames, is a sex-positive black cosplay model and artist. They post a wide variety of cosplay photos, a lot of medieval or Viking-inspired outfits that would be perfect for a Renaissance fair, as well as samples of their erotic and body-positive artwork. They also have a party trick of crushing watermelons, pumpkins, and other large fruit with just their thighs, so better behave yourself. Activists and educators. Elle Stanger is a passionate activist for sex worker rights, as well as sex and kink education, LGBTQ queer advocacy, and ethical alternative relationship models. She shares many resources through her social media accounts, such as her Instagram, @stripperwriter. She also works as an exotic dancer and shares a lot of stories about her experiences, both good and bad. Sometimes she talks about what it's like to be a parent while working in a patriarchy unapproved industry, something I can really relate to myself. I first heard about her years ago when she participated in one of the Portland Slutwalk protests I went to, and one of these days I'm going to build up the nerve to approach her for an interview, so look forward to that. Chrissy Stroop is a writer, speaker, and ex-evangelical who educates on the harms often perpetuated by religious zealots, especially evangelical Christians, based on research as well as her own experiences growing up in a strict Christian household. She's also a trans woman, as well as expert on modern and historic Russia. You can see some of her work at her website, cstroop.com, including information about her recently published book, Empty the Pews, Stories of Leaving the Church. To watch the interviews we've done together so far, please visit toplesstopics.org/Chrissy Stroop. Dr. Tiffany K., also known as Kipani, is a sexologist, sex writer and artist, and alt model. She has 2 online identities. She does a lot of sex-positive education as Dr. Tiffany K., while also working as an alternative and adult model by the online moniker Kipani. So you can learn something new about sexuality, polyamory, kink and BDSM, etc., while you get to admire her titillating modeling work, pun not intended. Or for audio-only education, you can listen to her podcast, The Submissive Next Door. RJ Aguilar provides bisexuality and queer social commentary, progressive politics, and works as a male model and proud poster of thirst traps. I first met him at Vidcon 2022 and was impressed by his passion and confidence in advocating for the issues he cares strongly about. While he talks in his content about personal experiences, he also speaks out about a variety of important issues, like healthcare as a human right and lack of clean drinking water in economically disadvantaged areas. He also posts some, let's say, eye-catching modeling work. So like Dr. K, you can learn something about the world while giving yourself something nice to look at. Video essayists. Trying to curate a list of video essayists I like is so hard because there's so many amazing creators out there, big and small. I decided to only name those I first contacted to ask permission, since some creators are maybe not so thrilled at being mentioned by a woman with her heinous non-sexual female nipples on display. Again, if you'd like to see a lot more shoutouts to excellent creators, please visit the website page for this video at toplesstopics.org/NY2024. Jacob Geller is an especially interesting creator because he unites 2 of my greatest interests, video games and progressive politics. His work really exemplifies the concept of video games as art, showcasing how some tiny indie games have done phenomenally more for exploring the human psyche than big-budget titles, though sometimes even so-called AAA games can delve below the superficial. He really gets into his videos, interspersing the commentary with set pieces, background graphics, and hours of video game capture. Really top-notch content. I do advise watching his more serious videos in the daylight though if you're a scaredy cat like me. Some of his videos, like the false evolution of execution methods and fear of big things underwater, can evoke feelings of existential dread that are thrilling but can keep you up at night. By the way, if you want to see the not ridiculously censored versions of his videos, he's also on the nebula.tv documentary streaming service, as is the next person I want to give a shout out to. Philosophy Tube's creator and founder Abigail Thorne is famous enough that you're probably already a fan, but just in case you're not, you really need to check out her videos. They are so intricate, so heavily researched, so visually interesting that I cannot recommend them highly enough. She's an oldie creator like me. She's been posting to YouTube since 2013, both before and after her gender transition. Her catchphrase is giving away a philosophy degree for free, and the topics she covers range greatly from easy-to-grasp explanations of philosophical models like Stoicism to harrowing personal experiences, like being the victim of spousal abuse, and navigating the labyrinthine UK healthcare system in her quest to access legally protected gender-affirming medical care. I can also attest from meeting her briefly at VidCon that she's a very nice person, and I look forward to someday arranging an interview with her. Jessie Gender is a creator I have more recently started watching, and ironically I first found out about her after she was disparaged by another bread tuber who I won't name, but who's a cis-white male, not that that narrows the field too much. Similar to my podcast with Matthew Richardson, her content discusses the links between progressive politics, especially LGBTQ queer identities, and so-called nerd culture, especially sci-fi properties like Star Trek. As someone who can get very defensive about reductive assertions that video games and sci-fi shows are just brainless entertainment, I really value Jessie's skill at highlighting the subtle social implications hidden among the distractions of intergalactic alien invasions and magic schools for pure-blood children. She also has plenty of videos focused on just the progressive issues themselves. Don't feel excluded if you weren't ostracized in high school for being a freak like I was. Jack Saint is another video essayist who uses the allure of entertainment media meant for mass appeal to uncover the flawed and fractured aspects of human culture. What's especially funny to me about his videos is his deadpan delivery, almost like he's idly providing armchair philosophy, instead of insightful commentary that really goes in on what the popularity of a faux violent reality show or the existential horror of straight white men demonstrates. Really good stuff, definitely check him out. Like I said, there are so many amazing creators, activists, etc. out there that I would love to mention. But like I said, I don't want to mention anyone without asking them permission first in case they have some issue with it. I will be adding many more organized by category on the page for this video. So one more time, if you'd like to see the full list, please go to toplesstopics.org/ny2024. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. If you're brand new to the Topless Topics community, I hope you'll stick around and check out some of my other videos that range widely by topic, or maybe some of my interviews. I always love to hear positive feedback, so please feel free to look me up at toplesstopics.org/contact and let me know that you appreciate what I'm doing. That's pretty much it. Thanks so much. See you in the new year.